I am recording for all of you, just so you know that, and I will post it back on that work, the resource guide that I sent out to you, the links there. The links there are for handouts, copy of the PowerPoint, and it takes me about 24 hours to get it up, but I'll get a link there so that you can get in to see the, if you want to use this again somewhere along the way, it'll be there for you to do that. So today our topic is success through the power of hope. I'm doing these webinars partly, I think you'll hear this as we go, partly for my participation and my practice of hope myself. It gives me an opportunity to reach out and hopefully fulfill part of my own personal mission, which is to help the world be a better place by being more who I am and inspiring others to do the same. And so it's a chance for me just to reach out and offer this up for folks. As you know, there's several more coming up, and if you didn't get a note about how to log into some of the other webinars, just drop me an email and I'd be glad to do that. So today we're going to talk about hope, and then we're going to spend a little time specifically how we can impact students with this concept of hope. So a little bit about ourselves and about what hope is, and then some very specifics about how we can manage our interactions with students that will help them build hope, and why we might want to do that. As I just said, in that link on my own website are the handouts from the session. The only reason you might want those now, if you have access to them, is that we're going to do a couple of what we call hope tests or hope evaluations for you to kind of determine where you stand on a hope scale. I'll have the questions on the screen here, and you can just use a piece of scratch paper. But if you want the questions themselves, you want to use them later with students or anything, certainly they're there in the handout. PowerPoint in a PDF format, references. And then something that would really help me a lot is if there is a link to a Google form for just some kind of, I say evaluation. It's feedback. I'd love to have feedback from any of you. The things that you like, things you didn't, things you'd want more of, things you'd want less of. I'd really appreciate that, because I'm always trying to get better at what I'm doing, and this is a good way to do that. So I'll introduce myself for those of you that don't know me well. My name is Scott Geddes, and I'm a retired faculty member after 40 some years in the Maricopa Community College system in Arizona. I retired from that position. I was administrator and a faculty member during those times. I retired last September, and we moved to a community just north of Tucson called Catalina. The area, it's technically a Tucson address, but Catalina. So we're north of the city a bit. We're on an acre and have a little space around us, which is really nice. Desert view into the mountains. We're up on a little hill. So it's a great retirement gig, let me tell you. And the consulting business that I have had for many years and done many things, and some of you know I've worked with you, whether it's been through the Chair Academy or some of you are from colleges that are clients of mine. You know that I've been doing this a while, and I do it because I love it, not because I have to have the income or I rely on it for everything for my well-being. But I think it does help me be a holistic person and be happy in life, and gives me something to really engage in and be passionate about. I am a Gallup certified strengths coach, and I think some of you are probably logged in because of that, because I posted this on our site on the Facebook pages, and I really appreciate you being here. Again, any feedback from you all that do this for a living as well, that would be awesome. I'm a DISC certified trainer, appreciative inquiry facilitator, change intelligence facilitator, and of course, those of you that know I work for the Chair Academy. I don't know that we're going to have our Alberta sessions, but we're supposed to find that out tomorrow as facilitators. We're having a meeting. So for those of you that know some of the folks, or you are in our Alberta Academy or the new Illinois Academy coming up in June, we'll probably have some answers for you in the next day or so. So why in the world do I have this goofy picture up here for me? Well, it's intentional. It explains to me a little why I got interested in hope in the first place. In 2010, I left an administrative role. I was just stressed and burned out and everything, went back into the classroom, which is great. I say back into, that makes it sound like it's a step backwards, doesn't it? I stepped forward back into the classroom. But shortly after that, I went in to have my shoulder operated on for a rotator cuff, and lo and behold, in my physical for my surgery, I was found to have a congenital valve defect. And on the treadmill, I went into VTAC, which is a life-threatening arrhythmia, and taken by ambulance to the hospital. And a couple of days later, had open heart surgery. And any of you that have had relatives or you yourself have had open heart surgery in particular, there's a reaction to it that most people have that have gone through it. And it involves a lot of things, including some short-term memory loss at the time. Most of that goes away for most people. But it also is a depression. I mean, there's some very good research on how we go through waves of depression after that particular surgery. And I did. And I truly had the belief after I woke up, which was slow for me. It took a couple of days to become ungroggy and even be really awake. I couldn't walk across the hospital room. I mean, nobody can. That's normal. Slowly worked so I could walk around the nurse's station if I was holding on to something. I thought life was kind of over, right? I didn't see the other side of that much. And I thought I'd never have pizza again because, you know, here I am with a heart condition and they're trying to make you eat everything good. And it wasn't, I don't mean I was so deeply depressed like somebody that has clinical depression necessarily. I don't want to make light of that, but I certainly didn't see the future being better than the day. And so in my sense, hope wasn't there. However, that was in October 2010. We had a vacation plan to go to northern Colorado. I grew up in Colorado, but we were going to northern Colorado, north of the Rocky Mountain National Park, for a couple of weeks of vacation, my wife and I. And she's a mountain goat. She's a hiker and fit and all those things, unlike me, but she is, and she loves it. And I love the outside and love the wilderness like that. So we had a place, and we were planning on going up there, and I thought we were done. I thought we'd never go. Again, I can't walk across the living room now that I'm home. And I really wondered whether, again, things tomorrow would be better than today. I think a lot having to do with her, a lot having to do with a lot of social support I had around me, with people from distance and close that helped that. Slowly, I kind of reset my sights. And in those sights, I came to believe that my tomorrow certainly was going to be better than my today. And it also allowed me to believe that I had control over that, and that was going to happen because I was able to participate in that future, that it wasn't just luck, it wasn't just going to happen to me, but it was something I had to actually be part of. And those two things together led us to actually go to Colorado for that vacation. And this picture here is at 13,000 feet, and we hiked there. I don't know if I could do it again today, but at that time, you know, after working hard in between the surgery and the times that we got up there, I was able to do that. And that was a great accomplishment for me, not just physically, but related to hope. It showed me how, with a belief of hope, that we can actually accomplish things. And that led me to my interest, and I got connected with Shane Lopez, who you'll hear about in this session here. Some of you know Shane or have met Shane before he passed away a couple of years ago, 3 years ago now. But I got connected with Shane and really got involved in the idea of hope and how it works for our students. So here's what I'd like us to do today. I'd like at the end for you to be able to say that you can kind of explain what hope is, at least some working definition, have an idea of what hopeful thinking is, come up with a few ways that maybe you can increase your own hope, and at least support it if you're already very hopeful. Have some ideas for increasing hope in others, whether it be students or just people around you. And I also hope you're glad you did this. I hope you're glad you spent the hour a little more with us, and it wasn't just a complete waste of your morning along the way, or some of you your evenings, depending on where you are in the world. So let's start with a couple of definitions. Shane's definition is the one that I grabbed the best, and I think students do as well. And that is that hope is the belief that your future will be better than today. And it has to be connected with the belief that you have the power to make it so. Excuse me. If we have a belief that tomorrow's better, but we think that that's just random or coincidence or luck, then that's not hope. That's something else. Another author that's written a lot about hope is C.R. Snyder. And CR's definition is the same. It's exactly the same, but it's got a deeper set of words, a little more academic in its wording. It's a positive motivational state. Again, it's a sense of mind. It's a way you believe that is based on an interactively derived sense of successful agency and pathways. And we're going to talk about both of those because those are the things that we want to build in our students. Agency being that willpower, that belief in yourself, that self-efficacy, and pathways being the resilience, the ability to go around barriers to accomplish things. And you have to be able to believe that you can, and then you have to also have the tools to be able to do that. So it's very similar to the idea that tomorrow's better than today, and that they, with that interactively derived sense of agency and pathways, means that they have the power to do so. And then Shane and CR got together and put something together, just a third one, perceived capacity. Again, perceived, remember, it's in your head. It's not real. It's in your head. It's what you believe. To produce clear goals along with routes, that's the pathways piece, to reach those goals, and the motivation, agency, to use those routes. So I really resonate with all three, but certainly Shane's is the simplest and easiest for me, and the ones that students can understand the best, is that we can measure that in them, how much they believe tomorrow will be better or their future will be better than their day today, and how much they believe they have part of that and be participatory. The other thing I'll say here is that I think all of these make it clear to me that hope isn't something we do, it's something we practice. It is the practice of hope. And I don't think that's any different maybe than medicine, where in healthcare we practice medicine. It's based on science. There's a lot of research around it. We can measure it, but it's still a practice of hope, not actually a series of steps that we just do. It becomes a belief system and therefore the practice. What it's not is a lottery ticket. There is some pushback occasionally when I talk about hope. Once in a while, I'll have somebody say, you know, I just don't believe in this. You know, I have students that hope they get an A all the time. Well, that's not hope. That's wishful thinking. And for some of them, it's not always the best wishful thinking. For them to believe that they're going to be better tomorrow, they have to participate in that. And buying a lottery ticket is, I guess, part of participation, but the luck of winning or not winning is luck. And it's not hopeful to do that necessarily. So it's not just a lottery ticket. Humans are heliotropes. They're like sunflowers, and we follow the sun as the day goes on. If you've had sunflowers in your yard, you notice they point east in the morning and west in the afternoon. And we see sun as the possibilities. I do a lot of work with this when we do appreciative inquiry. We talk a lot about the idea of positive visioning and thinking about the best so that we can strive to be the best. It's not about getting what you want. That's not what hope is. It's not about just getting what you want, but it's about seeing the positive and generative possibilities in something. It's seeing the future as the possibility of being better and a belief that you can participate in that path and in that journey along the way. So it's not just an idea of you're going to get something out of it. I'd like you to do something for me. I'd like you, and you could do it on your screen. I can see you, but that's okay. That's not the point. I'd like you to raise both your hands for a second. Just put both hands up. And then I would like you to, using both hands, however you'd like to use them, I would like you to think of all your backgrounds and all your experiences that you have in your life and tell me where with your hands, demonstrate where your hope comes from. Move your hands to wherever you believe your hope comes from. Some of you are here, some of you are here, some of you are here. Okay, so I'm going to do this just so we can all see. Most of you can see it. Let's see if the poll works real quick. So some of you pointed to your heart. Some of you pointed to your head. Some of you pointed straight up. And some of you, maybe it was different. Some of you pointed at two places. What was that? Rub your tummy and pat your head or something, right? Okay. This is your statistics here. Validate the statistics of most people that participate in this. It meets Shane's research, And it also meets exactly what we thought here. So I'm going to share the results with you. So you should be able to see the results now. And you can see that heart usually wins. Now it's not a competition, so it's not they actually won. It's just that more of you tended to go there first. So let's talk for just a second about those three, primarily the three. If you've got an other that you'd like to share after we talk about these three, you're certainly welcome to either unmute and jump in, or you can drop something in the chat box. So let's talk about what those all mean. Hope is emotional. Hope is a feeling. Hope does come with that sense of perception and feeling that comes from what we do as we point to our heart. Hope also comes from a cerebral cognitive thinking about what hope is, how we obtain it, we can measure it, we can do things with it that are very cerebral, and it's something that happens in our brain. It also takes a leap of faith in order to believe in hope and to believe in the future. So I think one of the best ways to say this is that it really is going to take all three to really have great hope. It takes an emotional connection to hope. It takes a cognitive ability to act on that, and it takes a leap of faith in order to pull that all together and have it be meaningful for you in your life. So it's a nice little exercise. If you've got a group of people you're talking about hope with, this is a fun little exercise in a room. And you can have that chat. You can even have people have a chat more about what they meant by touching their head, hands, and their heart along the way. Okay. So just a nice little game. I'm going to read something to you, which is probably not always the best practice in the world, but I'm going to read you an Aesop Fable. And again, I'm not going to overbeat on Shane and his work, but this comes from Shane's work. And it so resonates with me, and I think it fits well with what we're going to do here today. So if you remember this Aesop Fable, while lounging on a floating lily, a carefree grasshopper was playing his fiddle. After playing a jaunty tune, he yelled down to a colony of bustling ants as they filed by. Fellas, slow down. You're working way too hard. Each ant toiled, carrying the grains from the field to a nearby storage room. Come on, guys, it's a beautiful summer afternoon. Take a load off. Come dangle your busy little tootsies in the pool. Or better yet, grab a partner and sashay on over. I'm just getting warmed up. Besides, all your marching is messing up my rhythm. One serious little ant stepped out of line. You are gathering food for the winter. We are gathering food for the winter, sir. And if you do not mind a little friendly advice, I suggest you do the same. And without another word, he balanced his load on his head and he shuffled back into the procession. Now, in the standard version of this fable that some of you may have read through the years, or you read to your kids, the grasshopper stars and the working ants are snug in their little winter, and it's all about how much we work and how much we play, right? All work, no play, all play, no work. But what if it went like this? What if we wrote a new ending? And instead, the grasshopper responded, well, little fella, how about we work together? I'll play some more tunes to lighten the mood and make your work go faster. Any talented musician in your crew? Throughout the day, music played and insects worked. The grasshopper soloed while the ants worked hard with his friends, and then a 5-ant band played while the grasshopper followed his serious little friend into collecting food for the winter. When our hopeful ideas and feelings about the future work together, our thoughts look ahead and tell us what we need to do today where we get to where we want to go. Our feelings lift us up. They give us energy we need to sustain that effort. Hope takes faith, but it's a work of the heart and the head. Hope happens when our rational selves meet our emotional selves. And that's the moral of the story I prefer. With that little story, thinking about how hope can help us work together and help each other feel hope. Hope is very contagious, as we'll chat about in a little bit. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to put you into some chat rooms. And it looks like I can do it with 3 or 4 people in a room. There's 25 of you here. And I'm going to click it and put you into these rooms. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to take, and we'll do this for about 10 minutes, okay? A little less. I'll hit the alarm. You'll see the little thing. If you haven't done this before, there's a notice comes up and tells you when you can come back. You can come back anytime, but tells you when we're going to end it in about a minute. I'd like you to have a conversation with each other about how you are practicing hope today. Let me give you a short example of what's going on, at least here in the States, and it may be going on everywhere. There are these almost demonstrations outside of some of the hospitals with people standing 6 feet apart, holding up signs and banging drums, thanking all the healthcare workers for being there and putting themselves on the line. There are almost this unbelievable effort for first responders and healthcare workers. There's several groups here that are bringing meals, buying meals for a hospital to feed them. Well, they're not doing that because their action is going to make the virus go away. They're not doing that for any promise that those healthcare workers are going to be able to not catch the virus or to be able to save any more lives, but they're doing it to practice hope. They're bringing a belief that they believe that the future can be better than today, and they are bringing that sense of hope to the folks that are working, that are so busy at that moment that may not be focused on what tomorrow will bring. So all it's doing is practicing it by being together, by playing the grasshopper, playing your fiddle. So if you just take a few minutes and just chat amongst yourselves about how you are practicing hope today in your lives, and then we'll come back and chat a little bit. And open all rooms. You should have received an invite on your screen there to click if you wish. Let's see here. Gary, if you're just logging in, there you go. Perfect. Welcome back. We'll have everybody wander back in here shortly. For those of you back, was that a useful conversation? Good. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that was a useful conversation, that you maybe connected with somebody you hadn't connected with before, and also had a chance to maybe talk a little bit about your practice of hope. I certainly believe that having the opportunity to see all of you here and see some people I haven't seen in a while and help present something about hope is certainly my way of practicing hope right now. It's been very helpful, very personally helpful to do this for myself. It's a little egocentric in that, but certainly doing it for all of you has helped me. So that's my practice at the moment. So let's talk a little bit about hope as a item rather than just as the emotion and maybe how we're practicing here today. This is the hope cycle that you can find in literature everywhere and research everywhere. There are some more complicated pathways that have to do with learning and previous lives, experiences and things that certainly are great if you want to go into depth. But this fits our need really well, and it fits us in, again, dealing with students, which is the primary purpose of what we're talking about here today. So in order to have hope, we want to have a clear picture of our future, of a future that's better than today, that we need goals in order to get there. We need to have some fairly specific measurable types of goals. Pathways are, again, ways to get there that are able to overcome obstacles. And then the willpower or self-efficacy or agency, it comes in our confidence along the way. So we're going to talk about each of those briefly as we go through this. Here are the authors that I most connect with in the area of hope. There are many, but these are the four that I connect with the most. Shane, of course, is somebody that I would consider my hope mentor, if you will. He was often called the hope monger. C.R. Snyder's probably done the most scientific kinds of research things, or did. Passed away in 2006. But The Psychology of Hope is really a strong read for those of you that want something a little more academic than Making Hope Happen. Although Making Hope Happen is very, very research-based, it's just not written in quite the same prose. Marty Seligman's book on Flourish is phenomenal. If you haven't had a chance to read any of Marty's stuff, he's a phenomenal author and writes some really wonderful stuff. Hosts the Authentic Happiness website. For those of you doing strengths, that's where you get VIA. Is you can go there and find it on that AuthenticHappiness.org website. And then two friends of mine are Joan MacArthur Blair and Jeannie Cockle, who, by the way, just did a Appreciative Inquiry series on for those of us that are Appreciative Inquiry facilitators recently on resilience and the role of hope and despair and forgiveness in building resilience, and it was really good. So if you have an opportunity to hear them or their book is phenomenal to talk about how to build resilience through hope and despair and forgiveness as the three parts of that resilience. So wonderful authors, and Canadian, for those of you that would like to read somebody that's closer to home. So why do we do this? Why in the world am I brought this up as a topic? I've spoken at NISOT about it a couple of times. Well, all other conditions equal, having a greater sense of hope increases academic success, workplace success, and measurably makes people feel happier. And those are all good things. Well, right now we're looking for academic performance in this conversation. I've certainly spoken to managers and leaders that talk about hope in an organization. But it does have measurable impact. It's not just something that we say, oh, we ought to have it. It's measurable. So let's take a couple of quick exercises here and measure your hope a bit. Here's the purpose of that, not so much for you to measure yours, although I think that's interesting for you. For me, it's also about you seeing the questions and therefore understanding how, if we measure it, we can understand what it means. It helps you define it a little bit along the way. The first one comes from Shane's book, Making Hope Happen. There are 10 questions. I'd like you to jot down your totals from these on a 1 through 5 for those three categories. Questions 1 through 5, questions 6 and 7 combined, 8, 9, and 10. And if you're willing, put those three numbers in the chat room. So it might be 20, 8, 16, something like that. I guess it couldn't be 16. It would have to be less than 15, wouldn't it? If you get done and you're not putting your scores in, which is fine, they're your scores, not you don't have to share those with anybody. If you'd give me some idea that you're done, so I kind of know that we can just kind of watching everybody's face and helping me understand that you've had a chance to complete. Thanks, Brian. No, thanks.
I'm done.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, as you look at these scores now, as we move into the next page, we'll work those, break those into three separate numbers, 1 through 5 combined as a number, 6 and 7 combined as a number, and then 8, 9, and 10 as a number. And I think you'll see how that works here. All right, looks like we got most of you. Okay, so here's what those scores mean. Questions 1 through 5 is a measurement of your hopeful thinking. Are you a hopeful person? The higher the score, 25 being obviously the maximum that you could score, the more hopeful you are, according to this instrument, right? You can decide that on your own, but according to this instrument, and I use this with students. We actually use this in the classroom. I use this particular survey. Not so much that their score is critical, but an opportunity to have a conversation about why those scores might be high or low and what they then can do to build that themselves. So 21 and 25, you're a high hope person, probably below 15, you've got some work to do. And there's probably some good reasons for that. And maybe that's an opportunity to think about it a little differently, or to think about some of the things we're going to talk about. I'll have a slide at the end that offers, I'm happy to chat with any of you one-on-one. So after this is over, part of what I'm offer is, if you want to have a chat, one chat somewhere, and we'll do this on video one-on-one so you can talk about things, I'd be happy to do that. I'm certainly not a counselor that can change your hope levels, but we can talk about the concepts and some of the other things that might be going on in your lives. 6 and 7 has to do with what we call readiness. For me, that's the locus of control. I think you'll be not maybe shocked, but I think you find in students oftentimes their locus of control is very external, which means they're looking at things outside of them having much more impact on them than they are internally having impact on the world. They haven't quite figured out that they have the power to make things better yet, that they are the victims of their past or they're victims of their future or their present. So like right now, people with low scores here might be because, well, I'm quarantined, I can't move, the economy is going to collapse, we're headed for a worldwide depression. I can't make the world better because there's so much wrong with it right now. Okay, that's having an external locus of control, looking at the situation and saying, this is my opportunity to find new ways to do things. It's an opportunity for me to grow. It's an opportunity for me to help my family. It's an opportunity to make new relationships. I just got off a coaching call this morning with a executive. I'm coaching an executive team at a college, and it was the executive assistant of the president that's in the group. And she said, you were right. One of the things that I've found is that I've talked to people more than I have when I'm at work. I have purposely, because she's talked to me about how to do that, but purposely connected with everybody that's her direct report every day. And then many more groups have been connecting on a regular basis because of this. So there's actually a big plus for her. And she saw that as an opportunity to have internal control of what's going on. And then last is, how contagious are you? How much do you live hope every day and demonstrate hope every day so that others see it? Right? And others feel it. It is contagious. It is as contagious or more so than COVID. I believe that. The good news is we don't have to put on masks and gloves. We should be out there just spreading it like crazy. And I think you can spread it through Zoom and WebEx and phone calls and all kinds of ways of doing that. You don't have to be next to somebody in order to spread that. So I encourage you, those with high scores there, to go out and really give yourself to the world around that. And those of you a little lower, let's think about how you can impact others along the way. All right, one more just to give you a feel for these. This is CRs. You'll notice here that you're going to total up your even scores and your odd scores and the total score. And then I'll give you how they work. It's a little quicker to do. Again, 1 through 4 here, not 1 through 5. Another minute or so. Okay, I think you probably figured this out as you read them, that the even number seem to be about getting out of jams and going around obstacles and solving problems, and the odd numbers are about pursuit of your goals, about getting there. So let's look at how those scores work. Even numbered questions have to do with the willpower, odd numbered questions, way power, and then all of our questions. So let's put this chart up. This is where I think it makes the most sense. If your combined score, your overall score is somewhere around 24, and here it's shown as 12 and 12, that certainly could be 16 and 8, right? It doesn't have to be exactly in square, but if you're at 24 and between 24 and 32, we consider you to be a high hope person. If you're in that gap somewhere between 24 and 8, We consider that to be average, and that's what most people fall. And I think a lot of your students will fall here. What you're going to find is some students falling in this low category. There's just no doubt there will be some, and they're the ones that are really need some work with some of the support systems that you have around the colleges. That's probably not something you can completely turn over in a classroom, but it is an opportunity to do that in some of the great student success support systems that we have. If your score here is lower than 12, so you're down here at 8, even if your weight power is higher, that means you have plenty of options, but you don't want to follow through. You don't have the motivation, right? There's plenty of ways to get there, and you can see that, but you just don't have the motivation. Over here, you get stuck, and this is where I think a lot of our students score lower. They have the willpower, they have the agency, they have the desire. I ask students coming into a first semester, no prerequisite healthcare class, and they're going to be pediatricians that are going to change the world, and they believe it, and they mean it, yet they're not quite sure how to even study or how to get past the slightest barrier of their computer not working that day or something, and they get stuck. So I think we're going to, and we'll see that. We'll spend a little time with that here in a minute about that idea. This is not a test for you to take, but I wanted to share some of the results from it. Gallup has what they call the Gallup student poll that they use in K through 12, which are our students coming into us, right, into the higher ed world. They do measure these 4 things now. It's changed in the last few years, but they measure these 4 things: engagement, hope, entrepreneurial, and career financial literacy. I'm interested in the hope scores in particular. So here's the 2017 results, which is not that far away. 46% were hopeful. The idea is the energy I have around the future. It was positive. 34% were stuck. They measured in that way with an instrument that said that they just were stuck. They didn't feel like they could get out of the binds they were in, and 20% were flat out discouraged. And that's not good scores if you think about that. If you think about that in terms of the number of students we're seeing in our rooms. 92% thought they would graduate, but only 62% could come up with good ways to get good grades. So again, they believe in themselves, but they don't always know how, and they don't always understand how to overcome those barriers. So that's where we have a chance to talk about what we could do with our students. Let's start with future. We're going to go through future goals, agency, willpower, pathways, and then we'll be done. Okay. So future, the idea of getting where we want to go, what we want to accomplish, whether it be tomorrow or sometime late in your lifetime. So our question is, how can you create and sustain some kind of energy around future for these students? Well, here's a couple of suggestions, and you may have some more. If you'd like to drop some in the chat room, you certainly can. If it we'll be able to capture that for others. One of the things that I do I do this in coaching. This is all about students, but trust me, all this works with everybody. Some of them are specific to an assignment in a class, but as we do idealized future, what we will do is ask the student to draw, paint, write, verbalize, however you want to do this, whether it's in class or in a written assignment, what their future looks like if they pass this program or if they graduate. You're at Adrian, Beth, and you say, what's your life going to look like 5 years from now after you graduate? And they have to write that out. They have to draw it. They have to somehow actually visualize it. If I'm coaching someone, and I get calls quite a bit from folks that I've coached or been involved with in the past, and they'll say, I got an opportunity to get a promotion. They want me to be the dean. They want me to be the vice president. They want me to change job. And I don't know if I want to do that or not. And one of the first things that I do is to ask them to close their eyes and visualize what it will be like in the new job. What's the office look like? What's it smell like? Who's walking in and out? What kind of work's being done? What's your life look like? That's the idealized future. That in this case for students, it's what it will look like with graduation. Then what I do with students is I ask them to draw out, write, verbalize what their future would look like if they don't graduate, if they don't pass the class. In this case, with coaching, I would do that if you don't take the job. Now, the only difference there is with coaching is that sometimes the not taking the job is the much more positive future, right? And so their efforts moving forward will be goal-oriented toward being the best they can be without that promotion, not necessarily with it. Whereas with students, we're looking for that idealized future. We're setting it up so that they are creating a vision, a feel, a smell, as completely specific as they can be in an idealized future. Another thing about future is that we have to make sure that all of our actions in a classroom and in our colleges and universities has a reason. Okay, we can't be doing things just to be doing them because they seem like an okay thing. They have to tie to that student's future. And there's several great research projects out. This is one of them. The Lumina Foundation has another about why students go to college. And they go to college to increase their employment opportunities, make more money, and get a better job. Oh, there's some that go there to learn more about the world. There's a few, but the vast majority of our students are there because it's going to improve their lives through employment. That's just why they do. Even the art majors go in because they want to go be an art instructor. They want to improve their art capability to be able to sell their art. So the research says that a very high percentage do that. So we have to be able to connect our actions to their future. And that's why, even though we are not career institutions, at all of us, some of you are, some of you at Gateway in Wisconsin are technical schools that are very easy to connect to your outcomes. Those of you in Canada, many of you are technical schools where it's very easy to connect those to the career output. Beth, it's harder to do that just obviously through the liberal arts curriculum, but it is absolutely necessary to help them understand and build that connection to the future of what they're doing in a liberal arts education, which is, as you and I know, absolutely connected to their future and their job and how well they're going to have a life in their future. So, but it's our job to help them make that tie along the way. Depending on the level of your student, I think vision boarding is a great opportunity, is to literally have them draw out what it looks like. Have them take pictures, have them share them in class. I use strengths in all my classrooms, and we do some work around this using strengths, and they present to the class, using their top 5 and how their future looks connected to those. And so we do some work that combine the two things together. Goals. And again, you may have some ideas about how to do some of this stuff, and please throw it out in the chat room. And if you want to unmute and throw out an idea about how to help students build future, just unmute yourself and jump right in, okay? You're not interrupting me, you're participating in the group, and that would be great. Next is goals. How do we help these students actually form goals? Well, obviously some of you are in a counseling environment or a one-on-one environment, and you can sit down with them and actually work through some of that. In some of the bigger groups in a classroom or a larger group, there are some more subtle ways to do that, or a little easier to scale, right? Make them scalable. So what we're trying to do is come up with observable, measurable end results that lead to that future that they just described, right? The goals can't just be goals. Like, well, I got a goal to get an A. Okay, that's good. That's a great goal. Well, why? What's it? How's that going to help you in the future? How do we tie that to your next step, right? So they need to see that connection between their goal and their outcome along the way. So how can we do that? Well, I start every class with a goal exercise, every class. And I literally ask them right up front online, I teach a lot of online, is the first, introduction, and those of you that teach online, you always have that introduction assignment where you introduce yourself to everybody else in the room, or you have to submit some really simple little assignment. I always put in there, what's your life goal that this class is going to help you meet? Let them do this. You don't have to help them define their future. You have to help them see that they need goals and what their future is. So I literally tie, I'm going to say 90% of my assignments in a classroom or in an online class end with a question, no matter what the activity was. How did learning this material, or how did participating in this assignment going to impact you in the future? How is this assignment going to help you be more successful in life? And they have to it's a paragraph, it's a couple sentences. Some of them are great writers, some of them aren't, but it forces them to think through and find utility in what you're doing, and that helps them with their goals. I also ask for a performance goal in the class. Some only want C's. They just want to pass. They want to pass, and get on to the next program. That's awesome, right? Some want A's, some don't. And it's okay, but let's let them set those goals so that they've got something they're striving for. Now, what helps me with this is when they write them, many of them will say, well, I'm going to try to get an A. That's not a goal. Oh, it is. It's a goal to try. Well, I don't want them to try. I want them to get an A. So we go back and we help them rewrite the 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 SMART goal part. Somebody wrote about SMARTY goals. Um, that we go back and help them make it a SMART goal. So instead of saying, I will try my best to get an A, we say, your goal is, I will get an A. On May 15th, my grade for this class will be an A. That's their goal, right? It's more forward thinking, it's more assertive, it's positive. Do you meet every goal? No, we don't accomplish all our goals. But to have that goal rather than to be, you tried, you met your goal, is not as strong. So I work real hard with them and give them feedback on those very simple goals at the beginning of the class. I think it's also important for us to be able to help them reclaim their agency if they do have a failure grade or a failing something along the way. They have a goal to do this and they're not making it, then I think it's important for us to be able to help them redirect. I'll get students that want to be the pediatrician. They'll come into an introductory healthcare class, and I'm sorry, the reality is that's not going to happen for a lot of reasons, that they're just not prepared to be able to do the work to do there. But can we without telling them they can't accomplish something, can we help them find new goals that are obtainable, maybe shorter term goals that they can meet and get positive about and move forward, and then they'll find those new long-term futures and goals along the way. Agency, and we'll be done here maybe 10-15 minutes if you're looking at the time about, and I said it'd be between an hour and a half, and then we'll open up questions and conversation, and I'll stay on as long as anybody's online, okay, to chat or to ask questions. So let's talk a little bit about agency and how we can help build that in our students and the people around us as we go. It's our perceived ability to shape our future and our day. It's it's the sense that makes us authors of our life. And that's the question I give to my students. Are you the author of your own life, or are you just a character in somebody else's book? We'd like them to try to become the author of their own lives along the way. Your belief in them is contagious. You build agency by believing in them. You remember all the stories and research, those of you, especially those in education, know the stories about the first grade class that wasn't very good and they were always misbehaving, and the teacher told the second grade teacher that, oh, you're going to get this group, man, they're a pain and they're really high maintenance. And sure enough, that group got lower grades all through their educational career as they stayed together as a cohort, because we approached them with the idea that they were going to be less than excelling. If we look at each group and each student with the potential, with the positive idea that you can and believe in them, and show them we believe in them, even when they don't succeed at a particular assignment or grade, we build that sense of confidence along the way. I'm going to believe higher expectations always lead to better outcomes. It's a silly story, but in T-ball, when I coached a little T-ball baseball for my son, we practiced turning double plays, and parents would say, what are you doing? They don't even know which end is up of a bat. Before the season was over, we turned a double play, okay? Well, it was just something we worked at. We didn't yell at them when they didn't do it right, but we worked toward it. We expected them to be able to accomplish that level. And it wasn't out of their reach. So we just kept moving forward that way. And I think that's something that we can do. I think also very important for your students, and I'm going to suggest for those of you with kids, this is critical. Praise their hard work, not their smarts. If they come home with a great grade and we go, oh, you are so smart, that you're such a smart kid. We're always saying you're such a smart kid. What happens the first time they fail? They're dumb, right? Because they weren't smart. Instead, when they come home with a good grade or a good outcome or a good sports performance, whatever it is, say, I really appreciate how hard you worked to get that grade. That takes effort, doesn't it? They go, no, it was really pretty easy. No, not everybody gets those grades, and that's because you stayed focused and worked on it. And I appreciate that, and that's going to make you a great person in the world. You worked hard at it. So then when they fail, what's the answer? You got to reassess how you're working at it. You got to be more efficient in your work, or you got to work harder. That's measurable. That's something we can help them with. Whereas if they believe because they failed they're dumb, because they've been told passing is smart, then they're not going to be able to overcome that easily. And Clifton Strengths, for those of you that are here that have to do with this, know exactly how this works and how much power this has on agency. The idea that students have language that they can talk about how they can succeed. They have it's a positive language. It's a feel for how things can be and how they can excel and reach their highest outcomes. So I got to tell you, anybody that's not doing this in their classrooms, or I'm going to suggest not doing it across your whole college, I think you're missing an opportunity. I know several of you are here because you're working at schools that I've worked with that do this, and I hope you're finding good results. I know Gateway is, we talk a lot, and Beth, we've talked enough. I think you're starting to see some of the results there, and I hope that continues along the way. And Beth is at a 4-year college and is doing it for the first time in a full across the board, all incoming freshman students. So we'll see how the measurable outcomes of that are here before long. But it certainly builds an agency and a sense of well-being and a sense of purpose that can be used. So if you need help in doing that, I'm here. There's some other coaches here that some of you may have met in your room when you connect with them, and they certainly can help you participate in how to get strengths into your organizations. I give early, easy assignments. I have a syllabus quiz and let them take it as many times as they want with as much time as they want. They got to get 100%. Well, the first grade that goes in the grade book is 100%. It's not worth a lot of points, but guess what? They're already succeeding. Now, some of you, that's not as critical as the students that I'm getting. I'm getting incoming students that first generation and no prerequisites, and they need to know that they can succeed in college. And I think that does that. That introduction that I told you about is a graded assignment. We don't do that just because you got to do it. We do it and you get a grade for it. And how hard is it to introduce yourself? And I ask stupid questions like, what's your favorite movie? Where's your favorite place to eat? Tell us something about you we didn't know before. Silly things, but it's enough that they can make a little connection socially and all. But they can also have positive grade, positive success, and they start to believe that they can. So I think that's a really powerful tool that you can use. So pathways. This is the one where we hit the biggest barrier, especially those of you that are working with kids that are in poverty. Second generational poverty, there's some good research that second generational poverty kids have some really severe pathway blindness. I can't tell you why. I can just tell you the research says that kids that are in their second generation, their parents were poverty and they still are, do not find ways to overcome. They don't have resilience as much as those that aren't. But I'm going to suggest across the board with our students, at least the students that I deal with most of the time, they have trouble getting through their obstacles to do that. So I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but basically what this says is that we've raised a generation of students and kids that when they get in trouble, they come get help. They come to you and they want you to solve their problem for them. I get that online all the time, and they want you to do it. So when we help them, we enable them to stay without ability to have resilience. They don't overcome on their own. So instead of just fixing their problems for them, we have to teach them how to fix their problem. Right? It's like instead of giving them the fish, we teach them to fish. Instead of giving them and just working through those barriers for them, because we know they're big old barriers in higher ed. Instead of that, we help them learn how to overcome. We sit down with them and say, well, what would you do? How could you do? If it's strengths-based, what have you done in the past that worked? And how could you do that again? And how could that move you forward? We have to be able to support them overcoming their goals, not overcome their goals for them along the way. I'm going to play this if it lights up here in just a second. If you've seen this, you know it's short. But this to me is an absolute example of pathway blindness, of being our students and what happens to them. Let me know if you can't hear. You can thumb up, thumb down, or you can chat. Step to the beat, I woke up today, canceled all my plans, and I stepped right outside with my guitar. So I firmly believe that's a lot of our students. They walk in to register. The English 101 class that they wanted on Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock is full, and they turn around and walk back out and get in their car and leave. They don't say, what else could I do? What other classes are there? Somebody talk to me. They fail their first exam, they're done. And that's why we have first alert programs in a lot of our colleges. They just hit the smallest barrier and then they just quit. They get stuck and they will call for help. And if somebody doesn't come help them, they're stuck. So I really do think that we need to work and help them understand their pathways and their resilience over overcoming barriers. I actually, for academic success, I do what we call procedural self-talk. I actually have them, especially in a face-to-face class, have them write out on a whiteboard, because I do a lot of affirmative or formative evaluation in the classrooms. They all have whiteboards and pens. So they'll write a list of all the steps they took to study for that quiz, right? I used the study cards. I made flashcards. I did this. I did this. I did this, and then we put them together in a big list. And we let the students that don't know how to do that. They didn't use the study guides. They didn't make flashcards. They didn't study in a group. They didn't whatever it was that they could have done. They get better ideas from other students in a non-threatening way. So they start talking their way through the steps to overcome a barrier. In that case, it was a barrier of passing an exam or something. I use a lot of grading rubrics, and I do that because that helps them see specifically the small steps that they need in order to accomplish the grade. Instead of it just being, hey, you do well, you get this, it's very specific about what they have to accomplish. And then I'm going to suggest you tell your stories of failures and successes, that you're very honest and open about that. And I don't mean personal, okay? Yes, they could be personal failures, but I'm not asking you to be deep and too personal with them. But I am asking you to talk about those times like I did, overcoming, the heart surgery to be able to hike the mountain. Tell them those stories. Tell them when you failed. Tell them about the class that you didn't pass in college, or the time you applied for the job and didn't get it, or tell them. Let them know that this is reality, that we all have problems. We all have kids and jobs and trying to go to school, or we all help them understand that they're not alone in this having no pathways at times, and that you're going to help them overcome those and show them how to do that. I'm going to ask you to, in the classrooms, to teach hope, okay? And to do that, you have to teach them, one, about hope. Use the instrument if you want, the hope test. You teach them about goals, teach them about future, the power of the future. Teach it. I know you're a math teacher. I don't care. Teach hope. It needs to be part of your curriculum in some way. Teach them how to learn. So many of our students, and I don't care whether you're at a community college, you're at a liberal arts university, college, I don't care where you are. Some students, a lot of them come there and they don't know how to learn. Yeah, they got through high school, but they don't know how to learn. And so we have to help them. We have to guide them, give them the tools in order to learn, not do the homework, to learn. Hold students accountable. When we let students off the hook easily, they don't become resilient. They need to I'm not going to go as far as Harvard's work on failing forward, although I think there's some great value to that concept of failing forward. It's good to fail, and it is. I'm not going to go that far that you have to fail them, but I am going to go as far as to say you have to hold them accountable. And if they don't do well, we have to help them understand how they can do it differently, rather than just allowing them to, oh, you know what? I know life's tough, so I'll give you a break this time. I think we have to really hold them accountable to what it is that you expect. Now, with that, you have to have really clear expectations. Students don't do well with surprises. They do well with expectations. So if you're really clear with what you expect, then you can hold them accountable better. By the way, that's also the message for you that are managers of people. Clear expectations and then hold them accountable with lots of coaching feedback in between. That's the paradigm for building performance, right? Clear expectations, manager is coach, and accountability. That's the wheel. And that's no different for students then. And please don't provide hope. Help students find and develop hope, right? Be the contagious hope person. Tell your stories, be hopeful, but help them find it along the way. Okay. Hopeful thinking is an infinite resource, regardless of your budget. It's free, folks. It doesn't cost you anything to have hope. It doesn't cost you anything to be contagious with your hope. Hope matters. It's a choice. You can decide whether you pass and move this direction or whether you don't. It can be learned. You can help your students learn it. You can learn it. You can develop it. And it can and should be shared with others at all the opportunity that we have. So my challenge to you is what are you going to do to make your tomorrow better than today? What are you doing right now? And hopefully you talked about that a little bit already in your groups. What are you doing today that helps other people have a better tomorrow? How are you in control and the author of your life and a better future, even though we're in a time right now where things are different? Um, I look at them as an opportunity, and by the way, positivity is very low in my 34. Okay, I have intellection very high. I'm pretty skeptical. Um, but guess what? I look at what we're doing right now as opportunity. That's my hope. That's my sense of that. This is a little poem bar, a little conversation by the Dalai Lama, and I think it's really, I'll let you read it. I think it's powerful. I love the last sentence. It brings inner strength, self-confidence, the ability to do what you do honestly, truthfully, and transparently. I really like that a lot. There's another poem by Emily Dickinson in the handout if you do download that along the way. So I hope in our time together you've come to a way that you can kind of explain hope, at least in some concept, that you have an idea of what hopeful thinking is, that you've come up with some ways to help your own hope world and help others in that hope. And I hope you're glad you attended and participated in what we're doing. So you got to love Lucy and Schroeder, you know. Lucy, she's something.